Dredge, noun, an apparatus for bringing up objects or mud from a river or seabed by scooping or dragging. Verb, to clean out the bed of a harbor, river, or other area of water by scooping out mud, weeds, and rubbish with a dredge. Game, an adventure involving fishing, dredging, and eldritch horrors, and the subject of today's video. As always, I am not a game journalist. I am here to talk about a game. My words are not gospel and you aren't going to agree with everything I've said. I encourage you to play the game yourself and to form your own opinions. Dredge is a game that had me from day one. I played it, beat the main game, then proceeded to 100% it, and with the addition of 2 DLCs and a good amount of updates since then, I decided to make a video on it, so I had an excuse to play the game again. Dredge is a single-player adventure game featuring Lovecraftian elements and an open world. The game consists of fishing, dredging, exploring, and side quests in a large archipelago. It's a simple game. You're the new fisherman in town, having sailed to the Greater Marrow for a new job. However, your ship is destroyed when you crash it on jagged rocks, thus ending the game. Or, at least it would be. Thankfully, you survive and the mayor, still desperate for a fisherman, gives you a beaten-up old boat, so you can still do the job you've come to do. Now with a need for money and a boat that looks like it'll fall apart if you blow on it, you set off to catch some fish. Fishing in Dredge is simple. You find an area in the water that's bubbling and has fish under the water and hit the action button. Fishing consists of a quick-time minigame. The type of fish determines the pattern of the minigame. Once you've caught the fish needed to earn some money, you learn about crab pots, nifty little things that passively collect sea life for you, but they need to be retrieved and repaired after set times. However, eventually you'll happen upon a fish that defies logic, a fish that's mere existence is an abomination to the laws of the ocean, an aberration, and your first clue that this game has more than just fishing for you. Aberrations are neat, and I really love discovering these guys. Each of them are twisted versions of normal fish, have their own line of text showing how they are and the effects that the deep is having on not only the environment, but the ecosystem as well. Cutting open the vile atrocity at the local fishmonger gives us a handkerchief, inlaid with crimson thread. You can only imagine how beautiful it must have been at one point before being ingested by the abomination it was sliced from. More interesting, however, than the handkerchief itself, is the man who appears, claiming that he's looking for relics, and that piece of cloth is one of them, and to look for him on Blackstone Isle if we wish to sell it to him. So, with your interest piqued and in desperate need of cash, you head over to Blackstone to give the collector the handkerchief. But instead of lining your pockets with more cash, he instead outfits your boat with dredging equipment and asks you to find more relics for him, promising to give you bigger and better rewards. Dredging is a very important mechanic in the game, mainly because it's your only real way to upgrade your boat, but we'll get to that in a moment. Finding a place to dredge is simple. Water will bubble, just the same as it does with fish, and you'll see the material below, just like you will with fish. Usually wood, metal, cloth, or a slew of junk, which usually contains some sort of trinket that you can sell. Dredging, like fishing, also involves a minigame. Not really identical to the fishing, but just as easy. Now that you have all the basics taken care of, you should probably take care of your boat. Upgrades for your boat are important after all. Hull upgrades to take more of a beating from rocks, storms, or other things, more inventory space to store more fish and trinkets, more slots for rods, trawls, and lights so you can have increased effects from each of them. There's also a painter in Little Marrow now so you can change the color of your boat. Each upgrade requires some amount of wood, cloth, or metal, so making sure you dredge up material is important. But don't think that just because your boat is sturdier that you are any safer. Your panic meter, named that because of all the scary shit you will be seeing, is a handy gauge of seeing just how far gone you are. Things like staying in the dark increase your panic. You're in a place where the veil is thinnest, and what lies on the other side is not your friend. The night angler will disguise itself as a boat and attack as soon as its prey is close enough, causing serious damage to your hull. The serpent, found only in the Gale Cliffs, is a large, ferocious, and violent creature. While it doesn't really care for you, it will target you if you encroach on its territory. Mind suckers, Found only in the Twisted Strand, they are attracted by movement, causing high levels of panic on anyone who gets targeted. The Stellar Basin creature, named aptly for being stuck in the Stellar Basin. It attacks with tendrils and looks very pretty, honestly. And then the Unseeing Mother, found in Devil's Spine. As the name implies, she can't see, but she can hear the cries of her children that feast on your boat, and she always answers that call. Those are the big ones, but having a high panic makes things worse for you. Disappearing rocks, feral crows stealing your fish, phantom sharks that take a bite of your boat. Keeping yourself calm and sane is the best way to keep yourself safe, so if you ever need to lower it, just pull into a port and sleep the day away. Now that that's settled, you'll need to look for those relics the collector wanted you to get, but where do you start? Well, thankfully the map starts you in the middle of the Marrows, a temperate fishing zone. Here you'll find your fishmonger who buys your fish, the shipwright where you can upgrade your boat, the trader who buys trinkets, and the painter who can change your boat's color. Twisted Strand to the northwest consists of heavily rooted mangrove trees that weave and tangle in many directions. This place is littered with many downed airplanes, and the terrain is highly cramped. Add to it the creatures that lurk in there and make it difficult to navigate sometimes if you're not careful. Devil's Spine to the northeast is littered with ruins of a bygone era, a city no longer found in any history books and covered in thermal vents. Sailing around is easy enough, but when venturing into the ruins themselves, you'll need to exercise caution, as the combination of tight spaces and the children are a hard strain on anyone's boat. The Gale Cliffs to the southeast is a large mountainous region, with caves and passages snaking through the rocks. It's also the only place with another actual town there. Granted, it's not much to look at since the whaling industry has apparently died, but it is there. And Stellar Basin is in the southwest. Once a popular tourist destination due to its beautiful scenery, now only has a handful of guests. The researcher, and a dog that you can find. He's a good boy. But when day turns to night, the sun-soaked waters are replaced with bioluminescence, and the creature from the deep awakens, and makes very clear they do not like you in their waters. Of all the areas in this game, Stellar Basin is probably my favorite aesthetically. It looks beautiful day and night, and somehow I find both extremely calming, despite being hunted by shackled gods, phantom sharks, rocks, and such of the other. Having said this, however, I tend to find myself in the Marrows more often than not. Almost as if something strange is pulling me back there. Yeah, like that. Manifest is one of the rewards you're given by the collector for finding a relic. No matter where you are on the map, you will always return to where it all began. Blackstone Isle. And I imagine the process is not a painless one, considering using this ability drives up your panic meter. Haste is another ability. It imbues your engines with a newfound strength, and also a newfound stress. Using this ability will raise your panic as it goes, but also heats up your engine. If you use it too much, it will start harming your boat. No power is without its damages after all. Banish. Words to deter. It will create a ring of protection for 15 seconds from all of the most vile stirrings in the dark, except for the Unseeing Mother and the Leviathan. It has a longish cooldown, 12 hours, but that's probably for the best. After all, the more words are spoken, the more they are understood, and that is the last thing you want. Finally, Atrophy. The words to wring the very life from nature. Using this ability shoots your panic up and instantly kills every fish in the nearest fishing spot, decaying its body and speeding up the process up to 3 times the normal rate. Not only that, but you damage the ecosystem so heavily that nothing can return for 3 weeks. The cooldown for such a vile act is 12 hours. While collecting relics and learning the secrets of the deep, you'll come across different characters with their own things to do and things that they want. The fishmonger wants to eat one of those abominations. A builder wants to find her own place to live and build in peace. The dog wants to find a new home. Mysterious figures that ask for certain fish to feast on. You're not the only one with a story out there on the ocean. However, yours has a bit more finality that comes with it. But before we close the book on our story, let's finish another. The mayor needs help. A photographer has gone missing to the south and hasn't been seen or heard from in quite a while. Following our only lead, you'll eventually notice a nip in the air. One that soon turns into a chill, and then eventually into a frigid blanket draped across the ocean. This is the Pale Reach. This new icy tundra is a part of the Pale Reach expansion for Dredge. It comes with a boatload of new fish, side quests, rods, nets, and a new ice block that allows you to extend the shelf life of your catches. A quick run around the ice with High Panic allows us to piece together a small story about a narwhal and the Leviathan, fighting for eternity until eventually the Leviathan won, putting the narwhal in a state of near death and trapped in the ice. But for now, that photographer needs our help, specifically with getting the attention of another narwhal that's been spotted around here. So, we slap some fish down to get its attention, and to say it works is an understatement. It works so well that it destroys the ice wall the fish was resting on. This terrifies the photographer and she rightly fucks off, claiming that that thing is no normal narwhal, leaving us to explore this new section. Doing some exploring, we come across multiple ice shards containing what looks like people. Talking to them and reading their nearby journals gives us a story of a captain who, tempted by treasures and wealth by voices heard in his dream, brings 3 of his most trusted crew members to nearby parts of the dead narwhal's body, and somehow traps them in the ice to resurrect the dead being. Unfortunately, this ritual was a failure, and he too ended up trapped in the ice, cursed, the same as his crew to forever watch the cold seas drift. Speaking to any of these dead souls has them ask you to break them free with an axe. To find said axes, you'll need the icebreaker, a new piece of equipment for the front of your boat. Fittingly, it breaks, well, ice. Building it isn't too difficult. Just find the pieces, give it to the sailing merchant, and she'll rig it to the front of your boat. Ta-da! You now have nothing to fear from floating ice. Grabbing these 4 axes and freeing each sailor drains the life from the horned monster, giving you crystals that shine brilliantly in the light, containing the souls of the damned expedition. Once the last soul has been freed, the narwhal, finally without its sacrifices, dies, its horn cracking and leaving this world behind. You then go to a shrine, place the ice hearts, and release all the spirits. With that, you're finally done with the Pale Reach. Leaving the icy prison, you'll immediately see the central lighthouse, that beacon of safety in the middle of the map, but your eyes may also be drawn to another light, tearing through the stars. Getting closer reveals it to be an oil rig, from the Ironhaven Corporation to be exact, and they have some problems of their own. For starters, the foreman can't get the place up and running because of missing supplies. Without them, this place is little more than a glorified docking space. Finding some of these supplies is as easy as going to the areas the foreman marks on your map and dredging up what's there. Returning to the foreman with these materials, you're given a broader access to the rig, and getting more supplies opens up the rig even further. A scientist who acts as the main driving force for the main narrative, a generator where your fish can be sold, a tech lab to upgrade your abilities, a factory for upgrading your old equipment, and more. Now, with the rig up and running, it's time to start drilling. Fuck! The drill was too violent, and now there's cracks in the earth, and this black shit is oozing everywhere. What is this shit anyways? It's not oil. Oil doesn't do this stuff, and these fish, according to the scientists, they haven't been seen in ages. The cracks are spreading further, and the dark goo is surfacing in more areas, but the scientist just wants you to collect more data, primarily from these fucking fish. Soon, the damage to the seabed attracts the attention of a kraken, and it attacks the rig. So, you're sent to retrieve the plans to a beacon that will repel the beast. And with it built, and the kraken pacified, maybe business can return to normal. Unfortunately, this is short-lived though. Eventually, a new face shows itself on the rig in the form of an asshole, the executive, who's more concerned with profits than he is pissing off the local ecosystem and whatever it was that grabbed the rig, demanding the drill to continue. So of course, more cracks surface, causing more dark goo to appear. After collecting some more samples for the scientist, he asks for you to collect the last of it. But something is different here. He's been acting strange ever since you brought the samples, but now he's full on hiding behind his board, almost as if he's afraid of something, and he's talking to himself. As you return to him with the last of the fish, you're starting to see why he hid. The scientist is no longer human. He's been corrupted by the void, ripping the samples from your hands and feasting on them. Has he been doing this the entire time from the beginning? Or was something else turning him and this is the end result? Regardless, he doesn't seem too thrilled that you're here as he jumps out of the window into the dark depths below. Returning to the main platform of the rig, the foreman decides that this just can't go on any longer and instructs you to sabotage the beacon that's stopping the monsters from attacking. Doing so makes the Kraken appear, but not just him. The Leviathan also joins, angered by the arrival of the Kraken and the dangers posed by the rig itself. The two destroy the drill and damage the supports of the rig. The executive, like the coward he is, flees the drill, leaving the rest of the employees to their fate and ending the tale of the Iron Rig. You've closed the book on two separate stories, one of greed, betrayal, and the cost of loyalty, the other of greed, the effects of oceanic drilling, and desperation. Now it's time to finish the final story. Yours. While sailing across the ocean, you may come across various messages in bottles. They tell the story of a superstitious fisherman and his wife Julie, who have just been married. The early notes paint a happy picture of a couple in love. The fisherman then renames his boat, but his wife keeps a memento bearing the old name, something that is apparently considered bad luck. The fisherman, now paranoid that the ceremony has brought him and his boat bad luck, bans his wife from sailing with him as he believes she'll bring more bad luck after an incident caused items to go overboard. Unfortunately, the bad luck didn't end there, as the fisherman, unable to catch any fish in the area, had to resort to dredging up wreckages. Bored out of her mind and missing her husband, Julie begged her husband to go on an expedition with him, a request he reluctantly agreed to. The young couple and the mayor of the Marrows set off to sea, eventually dredging up a wreckage that contained a coffin. Opening this coffin revealed not a body, but a book, the Book of the Deep. Upon opening this book, a fog stretched across the ocean, reaching for miles, and drove everyone present on the boat to the brink of madness. Julie getting the worst of it, being unable to even look her beloved in the eyes without seeing the void. Unfortunately, the retrieval of the book also attracted the attention of the Leviathan, who immediately tracked down the boat and sought to destroy it and kill everyone aboard, but only partially succeeding. Julie drowned, and the fisherman, now completely consumed by the deep, returned to his house on Blackstone Isle and deciphered the book, learning of a ritual that could bring his beloved wife back, but at the cost of bringing in a new and possibly permanent age of chaos and destruction. However, before he could conduct the ritual, he went insane. He disappeared and left everything to go from bad to worse for 20 years. That is, until you cut his wife's handkerchief out of that fish. But there was another person there, the old mayor. What happened to him? Searching around the Devil's Spine region, you'll meet a crazy old man who's screaming and rambling, claiming to know you in his madness, but he also speaks of the boat, the Collector and Julie, and the Leviathan destroying that boat. So, knowing what you know now, that the Collector is responsible for all of this, the Leviathan's presence, the madness plaguing people, and what you can only assume to be his plan to resurrect his wife, you head to Blackstone Isle to confront him. Concealing the final relic and speaking to the Collector, you ask him about his book, knowing its true origins. He plays dumb, of course, initially, but you've got to push forward. Demanding answers, he keeps deflecting and saying weird things. Are we really going to do this again? You were there. What does he mean by that? Only him, his wife, and the mayor were there. The room's pulsing as if it's got a heartbeat. You need that book. You take a step forward, but so does he, as if to defend himself. He won't change anything. The book is ours, he says. You're tired of his shit, tired of his voice, tired of his lies. You throw a fist, but what you strike isn't flesh and bone like you expect. It's glass. There's never been a Collector. There's only ever been you, the fisherman. It was you that got married, you who started dredging, you who invited your wife and the mayor, you who opened the coffin and read the book, and you who got your beloved wife killed. Now here you are, about to resurrect her and doom everyone you've met to death. You now have a choice. Resurrect Julie and usher in a permanent age of the deep, or let her go. Deciding that you just can't let go, you, now made whole with the Collector, set off, arriving at the location where Julie drowned. You perform the ritual, tossing in her belongings and speaking the fated words, and it works. Your wife, your darling Julie, now returned to you. But she's not the only thing rising from the depths. What slept now wakes, and a new age of darkness washes over the oceans, destroying everything it set its sights on. You have your wife back, but you've damned the world to darkness never ending. However, deciding that you have to let go, and that losing your wife, while painful, cannot be changed, killing everyone just for her, it's not something she'd want. Maybe the lighthouse keeper would know what to do. The old mayor did point you in her direction after all. Going to the keeper has her lead you to a different spot to get rid of the book and all of its evils. You toss the book into the ocean, and the Leviathan emerges, eating the book, your boat, and ultimately you, sacrificing your life to save countless others and potentially pushing back the next age of the deep. Your story, regardless of decisions, is now over. Overall, I would say Dredge is an easy 9.5 out of 10 for me. The only thing that I disliked about Dredge was the sudden ending of the game. They're both good endings, don't get me wrong, but I felt that the finale was just too short. I don't know, it just, you take boat from point A to point B and done. Other than that, I loved everything. The sound design is beautiful, the artistic direction is phenomenal, the world building is like the thing that kept me hooked from start to finish, and the fishing and dredging, while repetitive for sure, never got boring to me. Funny enough, the weakest part about this game isn't actually part of the base game in general, it's the DLC. While the world building continues to shine through both DLC, the actual gameplay tends to fall flat. Add to it that the finale of both the Pale Reach and the Iron Rig are just as abrupt, if not worse, than the main game's endings, and you have a bit of a messy situation with them. There's no real sense of finality to either of them. While I can recommend them, I can't encourage you to get them. But that's Dredge, the fishing horror game. I love playing this game so much, and I'm really glad that I got to play it again. You can pick it up on PlayStation, Xbox, PC, Nintendo Switch, and hell, they've even added it to mobile now. So, I can encourage you to play the game. The base game, at least. As always, thank you for watching. If you got to this point, more thank you. We've got a Discord if you want to join it. The link is in the channel bio. And I stream every Saturday and Sunday, so maybe I'll see you there. Anyways, till next time, have a good night, everyone. One more thing, I just want to shout out these people on screen for always having my back and believing in me.